Hello, I am That British Guy and welcome to episode 3 of WWETube, looking at the episodes of the 3rd and 4th of July. There's a lot to get through, so let's get started straight away with Raw. Now, Raw starts off with a tag match between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, taking on Sasha Banks and Bayley. And Nia Jax takes out Bayley very, very early in the match. So it is basically a handicap match, Sasha having to face Nia and Alexa all on her own. Nia does most of the work here and actually gets her team back into the match a couple of times when Sasha tries to get the upper hand. But the match is won when Sasha Banks manages to get the bank statement locked in on Alexa Bliss, who taps out very, very quickly and actually later says in a backstage segment that she let Sasha Banks win to sort of lull her into a false sense of security, which seems a bit odd, but Alexa just put it down to tactics. Next we have the segment with Enzo and Cass in the ring, and Enzo does a very good job here to talk himself up. I think everyone thought that once they split, Big Cass would get the push and Enzo would become an afterthought, and he does actually make reference to this and make sure that the crowd and everyone is well aware of what he can do on his own so that he doesn't become an afterthought, as he puts it himself. Cass then pretty much repeats what he said previously about Enzo running his mouth and Cass basically having to do all the work for him. Enzo then gets a couple of quick hits in on Cass, but it's broken up very, very quickly before Cass can really get involved in it and before he can overpower Enzo. Cedric Alexander calls out Noam Dar, basically wants to put this whole Alicia Fox thing behind him. It's quite a quick match. Cedric Alexander is on top for the majority of it, but Alicia Fox distracts him a couple of times. The first time, Noam Dar manages to get a near fall in on him, and the second time, Cedric Alexander sees through it and manages to pick up the win himself. I thought their storyline had pretty much come to its end, but obviously WWE is still sort of trying to drag it out a bit. Whether this continues from here, I don't know. I don't really see the point in it. Not a lot really happened in this match, and I think both guys just need to move on to other things now. The video package for Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar's match at Great Balls of Fire, this was basically a greatest hits segment of all of the attacks that Samoa Joe has carried out on both Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. And it also showed the Paul Heyman segments where he's been talking up both Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar in the ring, and quite a few bits from the segment last week with Brock Lesnar. It's very nice to see him on the mic and not just handing over to Paul Heyman remaining silent. It adds to the realness of the whole thing and has built the story really, really nicely. Goldust is in the ring after this, and he is showing everyone the premiere of the film that he made last week, The Shattered Truth, and it is basically a repeat of the beatdown from the previous week, but a lot of it seen from the cameraman's angle from when he was in the ring actually filming R-Truth the previous week. And he gets very, very close when Goldust is beating the hell out of R-Truth, and you get a really close angle on that. It looks really, really effective. Then when we come back to the ring, R-Truth is actually behind Goldust and goes to jump him. Kind of a double bluff there as well, because Goldust sort of knows he's there and goes to throw his chair at R-Truth, who dodges out the way and manages to beat Goldust down just to get a bit of heat back himself, just to even things out. As far as I'm aware, as of recording, nothing has been formally announced for a match between the two of them at Great Balls of Fire, but I would presume that's where we're going with this. Miz TV section next, and while this wasn't as good as most previous Miz TV sections, it was obviously a damn sight better than last week. It was a lot more coordinated, everyone knew what they were doing. Dean Ambrose comes down and basically demands his IC title rematch, and then Heath Slater and Rhino come out, and Heath Slater makes a very good point that the last person to actually pin and beat The Miz was himself, so really he deserves the title match himself. Miz basically says, well, okay, I'll face one of you at Great Balls of Fire. It's down to you, Kurt Angle, to decide who I will face. He then brings up the personal issues and the text message and whatnot between himself and Corey Graves. This fires Angle up, and he basically makes Miz defend his title against Dean Ambrose at Great Balls of Fire, but in order to get there, he's first got to get past Heath Slater right now. So this goes into an impromptu match, and quite nice from this, The Miz isn't in any of his ring gear at all. He's still in sort of his suit, just taking his jacket off, which again adds a nice element of realism to it. Heath Slater looks really, really strong in this match, and he actually said in the segment before that in 8 years he's never even got an opportunity for a singles title, which seems absolutely ridiculous because of the amount of tag titles that he's won throughout his career. This is his first opportunity, and he looks very, very strong. The Miz selling for him, great, but obviously, surprise, surprise, distraction by the Miztourage, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel leads to a skull-crushing finale on Heath Slater, and The Miz wins 1-2-3. Rhino tried to get involved, but obviously a 2-against-1 disadvantage there for him, and he wasn't able to help out Heath Slater. Ambrose, who was on commentary, actually runs down to the ring to try and even the odds. He manages to bat Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel away, and is about to hit the Dirty Deeds on The Miz when he manages to roll out the ring. He then gets beaten down by both Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, and the three of them stand tall over Dean Ambrose to end the segment. Seth Rollins facing off against Kurt Hawkins, and before the match actually starts, Kurt Hawkins rather pointlessly sort of says to the crowd, well, the reason I lost last week was because no one believed in me. Does anyone here believe in me? Do you think I can win? No, of course not. Seth Rollins hits Kurt Hawkins with his new flying knee finisher, and 1-2-3, done. And this is pretty much the match that we probably should have had last week. It's a bit pointless to repeat the whole thing this week, but it gave Seth Rollins a quick, easy win. He then addresses Bray Wyatt and is basically saying, you call me a hypocrite, Bray Wyatt, but every time I'm looking for a fight, you're nowhere to be seen. And then sort of continues to do his whole, my sins are my redemption and these people have forgiven me spiel that he's done for the past few weeks. To be honest, I really can't wait for after Great Balls of Fire, where hopefully these two go their separate ways, because the build for this match has been so cold, and I don't think anyone has got any real interest in this match at all. Next, we have a split-screen interview with Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. And again, throughout this, it's Brock Lesnar doing pretty much all of the talking. I think Paul Heyman said about 2 or 3 things. And it did get a bit messy in the middle with Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar sort of talking over each other. But again, it just kept that realism throughout the whole thing. This whole feud has felt very real, very personal. Joe clearly wants the title and is ready to just run through Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar is ready to just bat down all challenges that come his way. It almost, the way they built it almost feels like a UFC fight or a boxing fight. It's been very, very genuine. Gets to the point where Samoa Joe's had enough of this. He leaves the interview and goes searching for Brock Lesnar. And just as he finds him, Kurt Angle and a load of security have to drag Samoa Joe away, as Brock Lesnar is basically goading him on and saying, come on then, take your shot. But because Samoa Joe gets dragged away, they are kept separate from each other until Sunday. Next up, we have a promo from Bray Wyatt out in the middle of a desert, basically to conjure up as many metaphors, I think, as possible for fire and that cleansing people's souls, and also adding in sun elements there in terms of Seth Rollins and him being blinded beforehand, but now he will be shown the way by Bray Wyatt. Again, it's very, very empty words from the pair of them, really. It doesn't really add to what Seth Rollins said. It's not really an answer to what he said in the ring. They're kind of very, very separate, their two segments. And as I said before, I just can't wait for these two to go their separate ways and work with other individuals, because this has just got no build to it whatsoever. More cruiserweight action. Neville taking on Mustafa Ali, and Mustafa Ali getting in a lot of high-flying offense and actually catching Neville out for the majority of the match. However, Neville manages to hit one big move and lock Mustafa Ali in the rings of Saturn. Tries for a little bit to struggle out of it, but has to tap out. Neville looking very, very strong, even though he was kind of on the ropes throughout most of the match. He then, after the bell goes, refuses to relinquish the hold, and it looks like from his face and from Mustafa Ali's facial expressions that he's actually locking it in tighter, and it takes the referee to sort of drag him off of Mustafa Ali. Nice seeing that aggressive instinct from him, almost sending a message to Akira Tozawa ahead of their title match at Great Balls of Fire. The next match, Finn Balor versus Cesaro, and Sheamus is at ringside acting as Cesaro's manager, and Matt and Jeff Hardy are on commentary. Cesaro is beating the hell out of Finn Balor for most of this match. I don't think I've ever seen so many European uppercuts in one match before. Finn Balor sent absolutely flying. Cesaro just absolutely dominated throughout the majority of this match. Finn Balor manages to get sort of a second wind, and down comes Elias Sampson to distract him. Cesaro manages to catch him in a roll-up, but Balor actually kicks out. The Hardys then get involved, clearing out Sampson, and Sheamus then interjects as well, and it just kind of turns into a brawl at the end, bit of a spot fest. But the Hardys manage to take out Elias Sampson and Sheamus, even though they sort of get taken out themselves. Finn Balor hits his coup de grace on Cesaro, and 1-2-3 victory. Finally, we get Apollo Crews versus Braun Strowman. And on paper, it sounds like this should really have been a squash, but Apollo Crews manages to hold his own for quite a while. He gets beaten out of the ring because Strowman is just so dominant. But what was quite nice is then Titus O'Neil firing him up, kind of adds some value to the Titus brand worldwide idea. And he manages to fire Apollo Crews up, who gets back in the ring, chops Strowman down to size, and goes for his standing moonsault. As he is about halfway through the rotation, Braun Strowman just kicks him about 3/4 of the way across the ring. It looked quite brutal. I think he actually landed on his head as well, Apollo Crews, so hopefully not too much damage done there. Braun Strowman then uses this opportunity to decimate Apollo Crews. He hits him with a running power slam, and just as the hand is coming down for 3, he actually lifts Apollo Crews' head and shoulders, puts him in another slam, 1, 2, lifts his head and shoulders again, and then delivers a third slam. 1, 2, 3, Strowman wins. And throughout all of this, Titus is getting more and more annoyed at Braun Strowman for not just finishing the match, and Strowman actually calls him into the ring. Titus gets a little bit of offense in, but he's absolutely floored by Strowman. He then takes Apollo Crews to the ambulance, which is at ringside, puts him in it, and gives it a whack on the back for the driver to drive away, and it doesn't. He does this a couple more times and actually goes to the driver's seat, where Roman Reigns jumps out and attacks him. Quite an even brawl between the two of them, and Roman Reigns manages to get the upper hand and actually spears Braun Strowman off of the stage through a table and some sort of trash that's left at the side. He climbs up onto the stage to sort of look victorious, but by the time he's done that, Braun Strowman is up on his feet, and the crowd goes absolutely mad, making both of them look very strong for their ambulance match going into Great Balls of Fire. Smackdown opened with a qualifying match for the Independence Day Battle Royal US title #1 contender match for later in the night. This was between AJ Styles and Chad Gable, and I can only presume this was because Kevin Owens basically said, well, I've beaten both of these in title matches, they don't deserve to be in there, so they're going to have to fight their way into the match. Was a little bit strange because Daniel Bryan promised that AJ Styles would be invited into the Battle Royal last week, but the two of them put on a brilliant match. Chad Gable especially looking very, very strong, but was unable to withstand the phenomenal forearm to put him away for the 3 count. John Cena's return was very old school babyface. Lots of USA chants, obviously with it being Independence Day. And while this may upset some of the American people watching this, it just felt a bit easy and a bit cheap. He was clearly going to get cheered anyway because it's his first appearance since WrestleMania and that big WrestleMania moment with the proposal. But to then bring Rusev down for his first Smackdown appearance and do the whole babyface American heel foreigner shtick, it was just so early 1980s. It was really, really bad to watch. And when Rusev's music first hit, the crowd popped huge for him. And then he immediately went on this tirade about how awful America and Americans are. As I said, it was just really, really cheap and didn't really add anything to it. They didn't have a match. Rusev basically saying, we'll fight on my terms, not on yours. But we've seen these two go at it so many times before. And I just don't want to see this from Rusev. It feels so similar to the Jinder Mahal character at the moment, of a heel foreigner having a go at the American crowd. Next we had the celebration for Carmella, the Carmella-bration, and both her and James Ellsworth really riling up the crowd because of what happened in both of the Money in the Bank ladder matches. Naomi comes down and basically gets in both of their faces and says, look, I don't care, I'm not looking over my shoulder, I'm not worried about you. You cash in that briefcase whenever the hell you like and I will beat you for this title. She then announces Daniel Bryan and he comes out and basically says to James Ellsworth that because of interjecting himself again last week, he will be suspended for 30 days and fined, and if he didn't get out of the ring straight away, he would strip the briefcase from Carmella. This actually makes Carmella pretty much drag James Ellsworth out so that she could protect her briefcase. Little bit of dissension between the two of them. Will be interesting to see where that goes. Naomi then has a third title match with Lana in a row and locks her straight in a submission move, and Lana taps immediately. Now at first I thought that Lana was adopting Emelina's gimmick, but it seems she's being portrayed more as Eva Marie was, as the wrestler who cannot wrestle, which just strikes me as odd. And if she can't wrestle, why does she keep getting title matches? It just kind of diminishes any defence that Naomi has of the title and just makes the whole SmackDown women's division seem really, really skewed, that they keep giving the worst wrestler on the roster title matches for the champion to then just squash her. Interestingly though, Tamina comes out and basically coaxes Lana out of the ring and walks off with her. So whether she is going to become her bodyguard or some kind of trainer for her, be interesting to see where that goes going forward. Shinsuke Nakamura is backstage being interviewed, and pretty much as soon as it starts, he gets jumped from behind by Baron Corbin, who smashes him in the back of the head with a briefcase. He then shouts down Nakamura, who gets back up on his feet, and just as they are starting to scrap with each other, they get separated. I thought this was a very good way of making Baron Corbin look strong and very heelish in attacking Nakamura, who he obviously sees as a threat, getting the attack in on him from behind. Nakamura gets a quick hit back in, but neither man really goes down. They're both made to look very, very strong, similar to when Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar were separated from each other the previous night on Raw. Aiden English is in the ring and gets interrupted by Randy Orton, and his annoyance at this actually causes him to jump Randy Orton at the beginning, smashing him in the back of the head with his microphone. He actually gets quite a lot of early offense in on Randy Orton, slamming him around outside the ring as well, but this just seems to work Randy Orton up into more of a frenzy, and he absolutely decimates Aiden English. Now say what you will about Aiden English, but boy can he sell. It looked like Randy Orton was legitimately beating the hell out of him, threw himself into the barrier, into the ring post, across the announce desk. The RKO looked really punishing, and Randy Orton looked like a man possessed, really, really menacing and ready for Jinder Mahal. Jinder then comes out and interrupts this little moment, and he basically says the same shtick that he's been saying for the past few weeks. All Americans are disrespectful. They don't like him because of what he looks like and what he sounds like and where he's from. And again, playing into, similar to what Rusev did, playing against the crowd on Independence Day as a stereotypical heel foreigner. And Randy Orton quite rightly says to him, look mate, the only reason people don't like you is because you're a jackass. It's nothing to do with where you're from or what you look like. You're a jackass and that's why we don't like you. Which I thought was quite justified and put Jinder straight in his place and silenced him. And they are finally starting to build, although they're going to be in a Punjabi prison match, I think I'm looking forward to that match more than any of the matches that they've had so far. Excellent little segment backstage after this. Ty Dillinger is walking down the corridor and the crowd pops huge for him. Haven't seen him in at least a month, I think it is. And he gets interviewed by Tyler Breeze, dressed up as Renee Young. Basically to coax out of him Ty Dillinger's strategy for winning the Battle Royal, presumably so that he and Fandango can use a similar strategy and overcome Ty Dillinger and other members of the match. And brilliantly, just over Ty Dillinger's shoulder, getting closer and closer and closer to the interview, Fandango dressed up as a handyman. And right at the end of it, Ty Dillinger even says to him, "Hi Fandango." Brilliant little bit between the two of them then, where Fandango asked Tyler Breeze if Ty Dillinger knew that it was them, and Tyler Breeze just completely on point. Hey, I didn't even know it was us. Absolutely superb. Just as good as all their Fashion File segments. The New Day and the Usos are in the ring, and they are having a rap battle. And at first I thought, oh god, this is going to be absolutely appalling. But it felt, again, going back to the Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar thing, it just made everything feel real. There was a genuine feel of conflict between the two sides. They were sort of arguing with each other and getting in each other's faces. I think this is the best segment that the Usos have had on the mic since they turned heel and became the champions. They looked really, really strong, and New Day were able to get a cheap win because the Usos sort of got in their face a bit too much and got disqualified for it. So New Day sort of looking stronger as they go into their title match at Battleground, but both sides played their roles very, very well throughout that. And finally, we get to the Battle Royal to determine the number one contender to Kevin Owens' United States Championship at Battleground. Kevin Owens is on commentary throughout, and this was sort of split into a couple of segments. The bit at the beginning showing Fandango actually saving Tyler Breeze from elimination, carrying him back to the ring, but then he gets immediately eliminated anyway. Mojo Rawley then goes on a bit of a tear and eliminates a few people, and he is about to sort of face off with Zack Ryder when they both get flattened by Eric Rowan. Eric Rowan then goes to eliminate Zack Ryder, and Mojo Rawley actually saves him and eliminates Eric Rowan himself. And just as Zack Ryder is sort of finding his feet again, Mojo Rawley eliminates him straight away, so presumably leading to dissension there and a breakup of that tag team so that they can go their own way in singles competition. The final section is between Ty Dillinger, Sami Zayn and AJ Styles. Ty Dillinger manages to get the upper hand against both these guys and has them both literally on the ropes, really trying to fight both of them off the apron so that he can win. He goes from one to the other, and just as AJ Styles is recovering, he attacks Sami Zayn and vice versa. Sami Zayn manages to get the upper hand and actually eliminate Ty Dillinger. This then leads to just AJ and Sami Zayn as the last two in, and they're both again on the ropes, and it looks like either could eliminate the other. And to be honest, I kind of expected Kevin Owens to leave his seat and try and eliminate both of them just to sort of justify not having to defend his title against anyone at Battleground. That then probably leading to a triple threat match, because obviously he's got history with both guys. But it is AJ Styles that manages to overcome Sami Zayn and hits him with a Pele kick and wins the match and the number 1 contender spot. Kevin Owens immediately rushes the ring and beats AJ Styles down. AJ just about manages to get the upper hand and stands tall at the end of Smackdown with the US title raised, while Kevin Owens is screaming at the referees to go back into the ring and get his title back. It's a very, very nice picture. Overall, I thought both shows were very strong, but I definitely think Raw put on a better show throughout. The matches for both shows were very, very good, but Raw's build of Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman was excellent, and Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar as well. Even the Enzo and Cass bit I thought developed very, very nicely, as well as the Neville and Akira Tozawa, just showing Neville in a really, really aggressive light, ready to defend his title. It was very nice to see Heath Slater put on a very good performance, and also to see Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas again involved and on TV, even if they weren't in a wrestling capacity. On the SmackDown side, Chad Gable looked brilliant. Very nice to see Rusev and Ty Dillinger back, and the crowd obviously thought likewise. The only problems really, the Rusev and Jinder foreign heel gimmick thing really isn't working, to be honest. And I'm not quite sure what they're doing with the women's division. To be honest, not that Raw is doing much better, but their interaction with their tag match was a lot better than what we saw on SmackDown. So what did you make of both shows? Did you prefer Raw like me, or did you prefer SmackDown instead? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Were there any sections that I missed out purely because I wasn't able to view them on YouTube? Please let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at RightlyWrongly. I am That British Guy, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.